Okay, Year 7, welcome to the next practical demonstration for your next practical lesson, which is fruit crumble, and we're going to focus on weighing and measuring of ingredients, peeling, slicing and using the oven safely. Okay, so we're going to make a start. So the first thing you need to do is you need to weigh out your ingredients. The ingredients that you need are going to be sugar. It can be caster sugar or it can be granulated sugar. It's just the difference in the size of the grains. Caster sugar is slightly finer. It's not as fine as icing sugar, but it's finer than granulated. You need to use plain flour. The reason why we're using plain flour is because there's no raising agent in it, and therefore it works better and keeps a better crumb. Margarine or butter is the next ingredient. And that's going to make you crumble. And then you're going to make apples. Okay, apple crumble. Okay, so you need baking apples. If you can't get baking apples, you can use eating apples. You just won't need to add quite as much sugar to them because baking apples are quite tart, but I'll come back to those in a bit. Right, so you do need a set of scales. Now, I realise that not everybody at home will have a set of scales. However, if you have a large spoon, a tablespoon, a large tablespoon, that's the biggest spoon. A dessert spoon is slightly smaller, okay? If you have a large tablespoon, you can weigh out with one of these or with cups. One of the 25 grams is approximately 1 tablespoon. So we're going to be using 100 grams of flour. So we're going to need 4 tablespoons of plain flour. And then if you're going to be doing the same with sugar, then you'll need 5 tablespoons of sugar. However, if you do have a set of scales, these are digital, you need to switch them on, clearly. If you've got balanced scales, you need to make sure that they are set to 0. I'm going to put my bowl on top, and then I'm going to press again to make sure that it's 0, so I'm not weighing my bowl. Okay, to this I'm going to add 100 grams. I'm actually going to do 150 because I've got a bigger bowl, but in school we would be doing 100 grams. But if you're doing a slightly bigger fruit crumble because you're at home and you've got a bit more time, you can add a little bit more. And then to this I'm going to add half of the sugar. The actual recipe says 120 grams of sugar. However, you don't put all that into the crumble. So I'm going to add about 100 grams of the sugar because I've doubled it up a little bit more. And then I'm going to add the margarine. So I need to set this back to 0, which is not done. And then I'm going to add 75 grams of margarine. So I need to cut that into a block. Just drop that in. That's 65, so a little bit more. Oh, nearly there. 75 grams of margarine. The best margarine is the block margarine or butter. Okay. Once you've weighed all your ingredients into a bowl, take it off the scales. Don't work on the scales because you'll damage the balance. And then you're just going to, using your fingertips, you're going to be rubbing in the fat and the flour together. It's just come out of the fridge, this, so it's quite hard. I've now got flour all over the floor and everywhere else, but never mind. These things happen. Okay, so I'm going to break the flour, the margarine up into the flour and the sugar. And I'm going to just use my fingertips. The reason why I'm not using my palms of my hand is because they're slightly warmer than my fingertips. And so the margarine will warm up and then it become gloopy and sticky and you'll end up with a very clumpy crumble. Okay, so now I've broken the margarine up and now rubbing it with the flour. What happens here is the flour actually coats the margarine. Okay, it's not the margarine coating the flour, it's the other way around. And to keep the particles slightly separate, to give you that crumbly texture when you baked it. All right. The sugar will help to sweeten the crumble mixture, but it'll also add colour through caramelisation. You've seen if you heat up sugar, it caramelises, it changes colour, it goes brown, and this will give a golden brown colour to the actual crumble when you've baked it in the oven. Okay. Before I started this, obviously I washed my hands, I tied my hair back, and I've got my apron on, and attended to basic food hygiene. I've obviously got a bowl and a set of scales, and I'm going to, I've also put the oven on at 180 degrees centigrade, or gas mark 4 to 5, depending on whether your oven is gas or electric. Okay, so I'm just rubbing this in. Can you see how it's starting to resemble breadcrumbs? And I've got my hands nice and clean. I haven't got my palms covered in flour and margarine. You need to remember to know when to, or you need to know when to stop. Okay, if you, especially boys, they tend to have very warm hands. Okay, if your hands are particularly warm, you may find that the mixture starts to clump. Stop mixing it when it gets to that point. Okay, so give it a shake. You can see the lumps will come to the top, and you can just break those up a bit. Okay, so that's the crumble mix made. So I'm going to put that on one side, out of the way. I'm going to wash my hands and get all the dough off my hands. I'm also going to wipe up the mess that I've made with the flour and the sugar. And then I'm going to start to prep the apples. Okay, now baking apples are considerably larger than eating apples. They are also a lot more, they're not as sweet. They're quite tart in flavour. Okay, so what we're going to do is, some of them may have stickers on, so you need to peel the stickers off and get rid of those. And we're going to peel them first and foremost. Okay, now there are several different potato peelers. This is my favourite one. I love this potato peeler. There are some where they're like funny little handles on them. You just need to get used to using a potato peeler the best way that you can. So with this, it's a question of pulling it towards you. Right, so you can, if you look at the actual peeler, there's blades on it. All I need to do is sit it on top of the apple, and then I'm literally just dragging it across the top. Let the blade take the peel off. All right, you are literally just dragging it over the top. You're not using it like a knife. You're not cutting it. You're just virtually, well, you're skinning it really, aren't you? You're skinning the peel off the apple all the way round. Okay, until you've got all the peel off. It's a bit of practice. You'll get better and better at it as the more you do it. All right, so just take your time with it. Take all the peel off, and then make sure it's off your chopping board, and then do the second one. Now, these are particularly big apples, so I'm just going to peel this one off. And then I'm going to slice them and core them, etc., into slices to go into my oven-proof dish, which is another piece of equipment that you need. Obviously, you can't put these into a plastic dish because they will melt in the oven. Okay, right, I've done the apples after I've done the crumble, because what happens to apples when you peel them and you leave them? They go brown, they oxidise. Right, using a sharp knife. Now, you used the sharp knife in your last lesson before we finished for Christmas. So you need to make sure you use the claw and the bridge cuts. Okay, so I'm going to top and tail the apple because they're very wobbly with the shape that they are. So I'm going to top and tail them to make them safe, so they're on a flat surface. Okay, this is to avoid you cutting yourselves. I'm not taking a lot off the top and the bottom. I'm only shaving it off so that you've actually got a solid base to work with. You can also see the core. All right, so I'm going to cut using the bridge. Remember, the bridge goes between your thumb and your forefinger. Okay, I'm going to cut all the way down the apple so it's in half. Okay, flat side down again, bridge, cut down through, so you've got 4/4. Okay, now because you've topped and tailed it, all right, you can now safely cut the core out. All right, not everybody has an apple corer. You've got a flat surface, so you can cut the core out of your apple and discard it, because you do not want that in your fruit crumble. Okay, so I'm holding it upright and I'm just cutting. Whoops. See, this is why I said to you because it's a slippery thing, flat side down. Okay, and then again. All right, so I've got my cores out, and then I'm going to move that to one side on my chopping board, and I'm going to do the same again with the second apple. So a bridge down through the middle of the core, flat side down, bridge down through the middle of the core, flat side down, down through the middle of the core. And then I'm going to again take the core out. All right. I find it a lot easier doing it this way because not everybody has a corer, and apples are organic materials. The cores don't always go straight the way through the apple, so you can stick a corer down the middle of the apple and miss half the core anyway, so you'd still have to go back and do this. Okay, so now I've got my 8/4 from the 2 apples. So I've got 4/4 from 2 apples, so I've got 8s effectively. Well, sort of. Anyway, no, I haven't. I've got 4/4. Think about it. 4/4. Right, I'm going to do a bridge again, and I'm going to cut it in half, each quarter in half, and then I'm going to use my claw, and I'm going to slice the apple into equal size thicknesses where I can, and then start to put those into my oven-proof dish. Okay, so I'm going to put those into the bottom of the oven-proof dish, and I'm going to do that with each one of the quarters. So I'm going to halve it again with using the bridge, and then using the claw I'm going to slice. Oh look, I've got my label. I'm going to slice, and after each slicing I'm going to put them into my oven-proof dish. That gives me space to work on my chopping board. Okay, so bridge, slicing, using the claw. Okay, now I'm using a knife that's considerably bigger than the knives at school, and the chances are you've probably got these bigger knives at home anyway, so you will be able to use the whole of the blade and slice all the way through the apple. When you make this, I'd like you to take a picture of you doing a bridge and a claw with your apples, and then a picture of your finished dish. You may want to do a picture of you weighing and measuring. It's entirely up to you. Okay, but as long as I've got a picture of you doing some skills and your finished dish, then I can do your Chef of the Week certificate for those students that I think have really excelled. Okay, if you can't do pictures, don't worry about it. Do a little bit of a description for me. Wow, these are big apples. We've got an awful lot of apple crumble. I'll be eating this for a week at this rate, I think. Okay, and then the last one. Now, if you can't get Bramleys, you know, the big cooking apples, if you use 3 or 4 eating apples because they're smaller, then that's fine. You don't need to peel the eating apples if you don't want to, because they've not got the thick peel on them that the Bramleys have. You can always leave them. Right, okay, there's an awful lot of apple in my dish. I think I might actually do 2. I and take that out and do 2 of those. Okay, I think there's a bit too much apple in there. Okay, so that's probably a better one. Okay, right, so to this I'm then going to add the rest of my sugar. Alright, so I'm going to sprinkle it over the top, give it a bit of a shake so it shakes down to the bottom and gets covered, and then I'm going to put the rest of my crumble over the top. Alright, now what you mustn't do with your crumble is pat it down. If you pat it down, you're knocking the air out of it, so the air's not going to help cook it. You want it crispy all the way through. Okay, so just give it a bit of a shake so it covers the top of the actual apple. Okay, right, and then that's going to go into the oven for about 20 minutes till it's golden brown. Now, okay, so this is my oven. It's not like the ones at school where they're underneath the hobs. My oven's an individual unit oven. Okay, it's been on, so I'm just going to pop my crumble into the oven. I need to open the door carefully. Okay, sorry it was wobbling around a bit, but it doesn't work very well in the kitchen. And then put my crumble into the middle of the oven, close the oven door, and then leave it for approximately 20 minutes. Okay. Okay, so once your apple crumble has been in for 20 minutes in the oven, unfortunately I can't open the door and hold the camera at the same time and take the apple crumble out safely to show you how to do it properly. So you need to open your door fully to get your apple crumble out using your oven gloves. Get either side of the dish, lift it out of the oven, put it on the side, close your oven door, and this is your finished apple crumble. Let's just see if we can get it in focus. Okay, maybe that's a bit better. You want a golden brown colour to your crumble. It's difficult to see, but you need nice crispy golden brown top. Make sure that once you've taken your oven gloves off that you don't touch the bowl again, because it will burn. Okay, I hope you enjoy your apple crumble. Happy eating.